Jamie Stone in my office had a Porsche. He bought a Model 3. He said, it's not comparable to a Porsche. He says it's unbelievably different. Our trader, David Schneider, just bought a Model 3. He says it's the best car he's ever had. My kids have, one of my sons has a Model X. He says he will never own another car other than a Tesla. Never. And if you talk to anyone who owns these Model 3s, they'll tell you the same thing. It's unbelievable. The quality, and it keeps getting better and better and better. And
they're buying, I assume, the $60,000 and $75,000 version.
So you're right. With General Motors, when they're making cars in their plants, they get 97% without defects. When Tesla has them, when you see those cars sitting around, that's going to making them real fast, and they're early on the ramp up. And when they're making them like that, what happens is that you don't have you have to make sure everything runs right. And so they're not making 97% yet, but the percentage they're making is higher and higher and higher. You know, I was out with a couple of guys, I guess 3 people in my office, and we were out at the General Motors plant in Orion, Ohio last Wednesday. And we were with the president of General Motors. He was 4.5 hours, and this whole team. And we're walking around the plant, and we're talking. This is where they're making the Bolt, and this is also where they're making the robo-taxis. And he was telling me, just to cut to the chase here, he said, what Tesla has accomplished is extraordinary. Extraordinary. My first question to, and Mary Barra says the same thing. My first question to him was that, you know, you got all these billions of dollars invested in plants that make motors. You're not going to need motors anymore. How is it that you're able to convince the board of General Motors to make these huge investments that are required in batteries and electric cars? Now, how do you, and the dealers don't want to sell them because there's nothing to fix. The dealers make all their money on fixing stuff as opposed to selling stuff. How do you get your board to do that? He says, well, Ron, there's a canary in the coal mine, is the way he said it. Canaries in the coal mine. What's a canaries in the coal mine? He said, well, we noticed that the General Motors consumers are using Uber and Lyft. We see these changes. He says in the next 10 years, the automobile industry is not going to be recognizable. Dan, who I think is an incredibly talented guy.
Dan Ammon?
Yes. He says that, what is going to happen is that, I lost my train of thought on that one, but
that what he thinks is going to happen in terms of changing the car industry. Yeah. I assume.
Well, electrification. So right. So he thinks that when you get the cost of a battery to be less than the cost of a motor, then it's going to take off. And the battery cost, when I started investing in Tesla, the cost of a battery per car was $35,000 a car. $35,000. It's now maybe $12,000 or $13,000. The cost of a motor is $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000. The cost of a battery is going to be half of what it is now in 3 or 4 years. The cost of a battery keeps falling, the cost of an engine keeps going up. Then in addition to that, he says that you have to have 10-minute charging. Right now, it's 20-minute charging for Tesla. I said, well, how insurmountable is that? And he says, well, he thinks it's technically doable and you can do it faster, but he is betting on the fact that he thinks autonomous driving is where he can establish competitive advantage. And as opposed to electric vehicles, he says the automobile companies can control how fast that comes on. But I disagree with that because there are all these countries that are saying, like China, right. City by city, they're rolling out and saying no more internal combustion engines. Norway, no more after 2020. And city by city, they're saying you can't sell internal combustion engines anymore. It's amazing.